quite rely on internet, it seems. So yeah, so back. So a big thank you to Candy for joining me. And as always, it's just so infectious to get Candy's incredible, yeah, just passion for the sport, right? And that's why she does such the great job that she does do. So let's see. That's our two semi-finals today. I'm not going to change my picks from the start. Sabalenka, Rybakina in the final with Rybakina winning was my pick at the start of the tournament. But I think we've got two great singles semi-finals in store today. And then obviously moving into the doubles, something that I know a lot about these pairs. We do have three of the top four pairs in the world in the semi-finals. Gabby and Erin. Being the ones that aren't. I guess also Paulini Irani. I mentioned a little bit earlier. Paulini's been a little bit ill. They won't be happy with how they've performed, but I would put it down to that a little bit. You've got Ostapenko, Sue Wei that have had a great year. They've a final of Australia, final in Dubai, semis of Madrid, final of Wimbledon. Then they stopped playing together. Who knows why? I don't know what happens on the doubles tour sometimes, but they stopped playing together and then they decided, actually, what are we doing? We're going to qualify for the finals. So they got back together in Beijing. They started poorly here. They lost the first set to Mertens and Kudermetova 6-1. But once they get going, they're a serious pair. Ostapenko, in my opinion, is the best half-court player in the world. And I've seen her against the men as well in the mixed doubles. When she's in that half court with them, boy, oh boy, can she play. Babos Stefani have come in hot, winning in Tokyo. They had a great late run in the air to solidify their place in the final. Babos has won this event 3 times before, brings a great experience alongside a very dynamic partner in Luisa Stefani. And I think that'll be a great match. The Babos Stefani have actually had a couple of wins over Ostapenko this year. Including first round of US Open this year, where they beat Kostapenko and Krejcikova. So I think the game styles match up quite nicely, actually, and I think that's going to be a really interesting match. I can see that being a match tiebreak in that, and yeah, it's then who finds the first serves. Who holds their nerve, who puts that volley away rather than missing that volley, who finds the lob at the right time. It's going to come down to moments. We've seen the scores this week, they can change so quickly, and if we even take, Erin and Gabby yesterday, 6-2, 3-2 up, quite an easy forehand to put away, to go 4-2, 4-2 up, and didn't quite put it away. And Stefani came up with an unbelievable pickup, and all of a sudden it's 3-all. The girls then responded, broke again, 6-2, 4-3, 30-15. And you're thinking, okay, this is, they're just doing a really professional job here. And 15 minutes later, they've lost the match. And, this is how doubles works a little bit. So going to be a really interesting match. And the second semi-final is a repeat of the semi-final at Wimbledon this year. Siniakova Townsend, who I think everyone has to say has been probably the best team on the tour the last 2 years. Both fantastic singles players, and gel together very well. A 3-0 so far on the WTA finals, and they played Kudermetova Mertens, who beat them in the semi-finals at Wimbledon. Anyone that saw that match thought it was Siniakova, I think, was tired mentally. She obviously won the mixed doubles. She won some matches. She beat Zhang in singles. There was a lot of tennis happening at that time for Siniakova. But again, I can see that really being going into a third set tiebreak today as well. I think it's another close one. It's another difficult one to call, and we'll see who is able to hold their nerve to come out the other end of that one as well. So good luck to all the players today, wherever you are in the world watching. Please do get behind the WTA finals. Hopefully it's accessible for you wherever you are. Thank you for a couple more questions that I'm just going to go through before I'm gonna leave you. Is Let's have a look. Does preparation differ much from Grand Slams? If so, how is the process different? I guess we're talking about the WTA finals, how it differs. Not massively. I guess the one difference is the scoring system. So, Grand Slams, you are preparing to play longer matches. You can sometimes have 3-hour doubles matches at Grand Slams. That happens 4 times a year. Whereas WTA finals are like a normal event where really the longest match you're going to play is an hour and a half, an hour and 40, really. And quite often it's even less than that. So I think in terms of that preparation, you're not having to quite put the same amount of volume in, or practice the scoring system. You've got to practice more your sudden death juice points, your 10-point tie breaks. At the end of the year, most players have played enough tennis, so it's a lot about just preparing for the conditions, and I would say as a general, for Grand Slams and for WTA finals and for Masters 1000s, you're really getting there 5 days, 6 days before. And so much of that is about conditions. It's about time, getting on the right time zone, getting your body acclimatized, being able to absolutely feel the balls, the courts, the altitude, which we had in Saudi to overcome, get used to your right routines, the food, get your sleeping patterns right, and then obviously working on your game as a team as well, or as an individual in singles. So I would say it's somewhat similar, really. Where it's a little bit different here, it's a little bit more chilled, in Riyadh end of year finals, in terms of you can get your practice courts for a bit longer. There's not the big stress. There's, like, I think French Open, the anxiety of going for lunch at French Open makes you not want to go for lunch. Whereas in Riyadh, there's a lot of space. You always got your table. You don't have to worry about that. You're with your team. It's all very quiet. You've got the food on tap for what you need. So definitely a little bit more comfortable, I would say. And rather than the Grand Slams at the start, which can be quite challenging in that regard. As the Grand Slams, I've always said this, it's a real privilege to be involved in the Grand Slams at the very end, because you get that big site and all of that area, and you're kind of there with not so many people anymore, and it's a real privilege to experience those sites like that. Somebody said here, I've seen that Demi Scherz and Asia Mohammed have split. Demi put this on her Instagram. Who is playing with who next year? Well, this is the wrong podcast for gossip, so I'm not going to give you all the gossip. I have a lot that I do know, but it's not for me to be telling everybody on Control the Controllables. Obviously, Demi has put out there that herself and Asia, they've had a great year, making the WTA finals. I believe Asia's first WTA finals, Demi's maybe 5th or 6th. So they've had a great year. So yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of all of that. I do think it is a little bit odd how often people split, but you can also understand it. It's quite an intense environment that people are playing in. You're spending a lot of time together, a lot of weeks on the road. You're living in a bubble, right? You don't quite know it at the time, but you become quite institutionalized to that. So sometimes hard to pull out and have a bigger picture outlook. But I would imagine, as ever, there will be lots of changes on the men's side and on the women's side. That tends to come out after the finals. We saw Demi put a message out yesterday, so I would imagine, kind of watch this space, but I would imagine there'll be a few changes as ever. Let's have a look. Biggest surprise of 2026 on the women's tour. That's for Candy. Unfortunately, we don't have Candy with us any longer. But the biggest surprise of 2026. Oh, good question. That's a hard question to answer without having a little look at some rankings. Let me just pull up some rankings very quickly. Who's going to surprise us on the women's tour? Ooh. Venus Williams, I've seen she's entered Auckland. I mean, that's incredible. Oh, how she's still going, but fair play if she's entered Auckland. That's a bit of a surprise, and that means she's looking to play Australian Open. So watch out for Venus Williams. Ashlyn Kruger is 45 in the world. I could see her pushing on and forward a little bit. Eva Jovic, that's an interesting one. I picked her out a while back on one of our Be Real podcasts as one to watch. I've just seen she's 35 in the world. Wow, she's really come up a long way. Krejcikova's dropped down to 66. Krejcikova, whichever it is. Sorry for pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, I mean, I'd fully expect her to get back to top 10 in the world if she wants to, and if she's fit and she's healthy. Let's have a look. We've got, what other names do we have looking out for here? Priscilla Hon is an interesting one. She hits the ball unbelievably well. She's outside the top 100, but she's had a real move the last few weeks. Be interesting to see if she can take that into Australia. I think that would be a one certainly to watch out for. And as ever, look, someone's going to come. Someone's going to come from nowhere. There's so many players. We talked about it earlier. There's players time and time and time again. I'm interested to see how Boisson, who was our semi-finalist in Roland Garros, how she continues and how she's able to play the first half of the year, knowing that the majority of her points are from French Open. And of course, the British eyes will go to Emma Raducanu. She consolidated this year inside the top 30, her best year to date in terms of consolidation, consistent year. I'm really interested to see how she pushes on in terms of, can she push on towards the top 10? And then the other one for me, I talk about all the time, is Marta Kostyuk. 26 in the world, but I've always said she's got it in her to be a top 10 player, someone who could make the year end. So I'm going to be really interested to see if she's able to push on as well. Any other questions we might have to get to another time. But hope you are well wherever you are in the world. I thank you for everyone that's joined us today. Enjoy what you have to come over the weekend. Enjoy the tennis. Enjoy the year end in Turin as well, and then we've got Billie Jean King Cup, which is just unbelievable. The year keeps going, and then hopefully everyone can just rest, recuperate, spend some time with the family, and we get ready to go again in 2026. We will be back, of course, with more guests on the podcasts. As ever, reach out if you're enjoying these live shows. Thank you for everyone who's got involved. But until next time, I'm Dan Kiernan, and we are Control the Controllables.